Okay, we'll get the deputy mayor from West Grade to his chair. Well, he's a county councilor until, yeah, okay. We'll call the meeting to order. Good morning, all. Welcome. And please rise and we'll sing the anthem.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you all. Madam Clerk, if you would take the roll call, please.
Councillor Mackey, Councillor McKay, Carlton, Pringle, McQueen, Nielsen, Patterson, Dickard, Kentner, Keaveney, Body, Gregg, Gordon Mill,
Present.
DeBreen, Matrosovs, Bourdignon,
Present.
Eccles, and Hutchinson. Through you, Mr. Warden, all members are in attendance today.
Thank you. I want to begin by respectfully acknowledging that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. And further, we give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the traditional keepers of these lands and waters since time immemorial. To our south also lies the traditional territories of the Six Nations of the Grand River and the Haudenosaunee. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and friendship with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. Is there any declaration of interest related to any item on this morning's council agenda? Hearing none, if one should arise during the course of the meeting, you can, of course, declare it at that time. So the first matter of business is the adoption of the minutes. We have the County Council and Committee of the Whole minutes dated July 11th of this year. Someone care to move adoption of those minutes? Councillor Hutchison, Councillor Nielsen, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. We also have the closed Committee of the Whole minutes from that same date, July 11th of this year. Would someone care to move? Councillor Dickard, thank you. Councillor Mackey, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. We have a bylaw to do the confirming motion. Councillor Patterson, Councillor Matrosovs, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Good news and celebrations. Who would like to share some news with it? Councillor Keaveney, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and good morning, everyone. And as we know, there's always something big happening in Meaford on the August Civic Holiday weekend. We have Summerfest, and that begins Friday evening at dusk with a 50-foot screen outdoors in our market square. And everyone is welcome to come and view back in the future. And Saturday is a whole list of events, but primary is the poutine off. All the restaurants in town are participating. You can come and get all different kinds of poutine. There's a canine water sports event, so bring your dogs. There's street vendors and buskers and entertainment downtown from 10 until 4. There's Doors of Meaford where artists come and paint any of the doors in the community from 10 until 6. We have a Jeep Fest at the harbor, so there's an obstacle course set up at the harbor, and people can come and test out their Jeep and see how they do getting across this course. Jenny Besworth, who is a local girl, is doing a podcast from 12 until 3 on the Meaford Hall steps. There's a dog parade coming out of beautiful Joe Park. There's a municipal-wide yard sale, and if you're not tired yet, at 7 o'clock, there's a street dance with 60s music. On Sunday, there's a repeat of most of these events along with food trucks in the market square. So like I always say, Meaford is the place to be.
Thank you, Shirley, and it certainly doesn't seem like it'll be busy in Meaford this weekend. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Motion to adjourn this council. Councillor DeBreen, Councillor Keaveney, all those in favor? That is carried. So we'll just take a minute to switch over to our committee of the whole. Thank you, Rob. I'll call this meeting of our committee of the whole to order. Is there any declaration of interest on this agenda? Okay, thank you. There's no delegations. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. Consent agenda. Anybody wish any of these items to remove for further discussion? Councillor Gregg.
The item regarding the quarterly purchasing report, just for a couple questions, thanks.
Okay, that'll be 6B, and we'll get to that probably not too distant future. Anyone else? I'd look for a motion to adopt the rest. Councillor Body, Councillor McQueen, all those in favor? That is carried. Items for direction and discussion. The first item is the report from our CAO, Kim Wingrove. She's going to be reporting on court security and prisoner transportation. So, Kim, the floor is yours. Yeah, sure. We'll get a mover in a second, or why not? Councillor Hutchison, Councillor Body. There you go.
Right. Good morning, County Council. The report before you examines the issue of fair and equitable responsibility for the costs of court security and prisoner transportation for the Superior Court of Justice and the Ontario Court of Justice located at 611 9th Ave East in Owen Sound. I'll start with a little bit of background. The Police Services Act of 1990, replaced by the Community Safety and Policing Act in 2019, mandates that local police services in Ontario provide security and prisoner transportation services to the Ontario Court of Justice and the Superior Court of Justice. This responsibility encompasses perimeter security, screening, courtroom security, and prisoner transport. The Act requires police chiefs to develop security plans, establish procedures, and ensure personnel are adequately trained. A long time ago, and I'll just say originally, court security and prisoner transportation costs were intended to be revenue neutral through fines and provincial funding. However, the current model for funding court security and prisoner transportation services in Ontario places financial responsibility on municipalities. Ontario is the only province that does things this way. The court security and prisoner transportation program that has been in place since 2012 allocates funding based on past expenditures, but lacks responsiveness to current costs. So they're paying based on costs that were incurred, I think, up to 2 years ago. The amount of provincial funding available at $125 million has been fixed since 2018. This issue has been delegated on at AMO by the city and the county, as well as other upper and lower tier municipalities numerous times. In 2022, the province retained consulting resources, and that's the Goss-Gilroy report that's attached to the report before you, to review ongoing concerns about funding equity, service efficiencies, and safety improvements. There are recommendations in that report for both the Solicitor General and for the police services who are serving the court. The City of Owen Sound staff report that was also attached to the report before you notes that Owen Sound Police have taken action on several of those recommendations and are committed to continuing to make improvements to improve security and control costs. That report also references recommendation 16 of the Goss Gilroy report that states, if there isn't substantial progress within 4 years, and that would bring us to 2026, consideration should be given to creating a new agency or having the OPP carry out the court security and prisoner transportation role. And I think no matter what we decide today, we should all pay attention to that date and be prepared to advocate for that recommendation. So the bottom line today is that despite efforts to optimize operations and advocate for provincial support, Owen Sound's funding shortfall in delivering mandated services that the whole county requires will be about $230,000 in 2024. There are various models being used to share in or cover off the differences between the provincial grant and the true cost of providing the court security services across Ontario. And those are either by including them in OPP contracts or the use of area rating or other special levies. In our case, the court service boundaries don't align with municipal boundaries. So the Owen Sound Court serves North and South Bruce Peninsula. The court in Walkerton serves Hanover and West Grey. So if we start to think about, well, should we be, putting in some system of chargebacks? I think that if we start to charge the Bruce County municipalities, they're only going to then implement their own charges to our own municipalities. And at the end of the day, both of us would incur new costs for administration, and it would be the taxpayers who would really not be any further ahead. So the recommendation before you is for the county to enter into an agreement with the City of Owen Sound, where the county would pay the difference in cost between the eligible court security costs under the provincial program and the grant amount that Owen Sound receives. And as I said, that's about $230,000 this year. This proposal is meant to ensure fair and sustainable service delivery aligned with transparency and accountability principles. And I'm happy to take any questions. There was quite a lot of information in those reports if you had a chance to take a look at it. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. The list of things that were supposed to be in our revenue neutral continues to grow. Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Thanks, Kim, for the complex system. Can you just, in the report, it talks about court security and court transportation, and they're really two separate things. Certainly, I believe that Owen Sound is bearing the brunt of the court security, and we all have a responsibility there. But the OPP are providing a lot of transportation to and from Penetanguishene, where the nearest jail is. So how does, in the report, it talks about transportation, but this is more court security, is it not?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Mackey. What I know is the costs that Owen Sound is incurring. And to your point, if OPP is taking on a portion of those court security costs, then that likely means that it's something that Owen Sound themselves are not having to do. And that cost then is not contributing to an even higher cost that the city would need to bear. So the costs that Owen Sound is bearing are the ones that they have. It's important to know too, I think even if you look at the Owen Sound staff report, the province has established a regime of eligible costs that they're willing to cover. I understand that there are costs in providing the service that the province doesn't even consider eligible. So the city of Owen Sound has costs over and above even what these eligible costs are, that we're not at this time recommending that we entertain, and the city gets no compensation for. So I can't really speak to what it is that either the city or the OPP are doing as far as prisoner transportation, except to say that in the budget documents that Owen Sound provided, they did have some prisoner transportation costs, and those were noted. And if they're able to, as I think that maybe it speaks to part of that comment about Owen Sound and Chief Ambrose working to do what they can to reduce the costs or contain the costs of providing the service.
Councillor Body perhaps has some insight into this. Councillor Body.
I don't have perfect knowledge, but I can fill in some of the blanks, I think. It's my understanding that there is a transport vehicle that will leave the super jail in Penetang and run through Collingwood, Owen Sound, Walkerton, and return the other way. So they're doing most of the transportation. There are times, however, that they get caught up in court in Walkerton, and our court has done it too, perhaps, as an example, but the transport vehicle isn't coming till 4, so there's extra security there for a couple of hours long after court has left. It's also my understanding, I might be getting a hint here. It's my understanding that there may be times that we run late here, and we would then be responsible for getting the person to Penetang because the bus has already gone through. So yeah, we would do after hours. And at OPP, at times that OPP service can't do. But basically there is that service. So that service won't be included in this court security cost. This is just the cost that that we're facing here.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Councillor Niels.
Thank you, Ward Milne. Just one question when looking at kind of the breakdown of these tax levy subsidy that seems to be pretty, I guess volatile is the best word because it's fluctuating quite significantly. When it comes to trying to budget, is there a premise to try to budget based on the previous year's costings to have make sure there's enough coverage, or just can you give me an idea on how the county is planning on trying to budget when we're seeing some significant changes in the cost of one sample?
And then just a comment about that volatility, I think what we've seen in our own provincial offenses court since COVID, and I think that carries on into this court, is some changes in the way that the court operates with regard to appearances over video and things like that. So I think that we've been through a period of some fairly significant change in the way that the court operates, and the ability to forecast those costs is a little bit out of your hands in some way, because you don't know what matters you'll have. Like even in our own court, you can have years where it's a pretty standard operating year. You have the same kind of volume and significance of events or matters that you're hearing at the court. And then other years you have some that are perhaps a lot more significant, take up a lot more time and security and all those other things. So it is a very challenging thing, I would expect, to try and budget for that. What is proposed here is that the county would be covering off the difference between the costs that Owen Sound has incurred and the provincial grant. And we will create an agreement with the city about that. My thinking at this point in time, though, is that we can't know what those numbers are until the end of the year, when the costs have been incurred and established, so that we would be covering off the difference from the year prior rather than looking ahead to the future, because we just wouldn't know.
Thank you. Any other questions? Counselor Mackey?
Thanks, Mr. Warden. So I guess as far as, you know, I certainly agree, we need to pay and help Lone Sound out with this because we're all responsible. Would we do it by household? By the number of households in each municipality? That's how our OPP billing is done, by household, as opposed to just an overall levy increase and proportioned out. I'm just not sure how we come up with, how we fairly come up with the dollar value that each municipality would pay.
I would think Chatsworth would pay half, but Kim?
I will be honest and assumed that it would be part of the levy and part of the budget, and it would be apportioned as the rest of the levy is. But I'm going to put Mary Lou on the spot and ask her about the considerations and work that might be involved in doing it a different way. And maybe that's something that we want to think about and bring back as part of that, you know, the future agreement that you'll need to approve. So I'll turn it over to Mary Lou if she's got a couple of quick thoughts.
Thanks, Kim. My initial thought, when Kim and I discussed this, is we would allocate it the same as we do any other expense that's in their budget. We don't allocate paramedic services based on a number of households or any of the other departments we have. So to me, it makes most sense that it's just allocated as we do with every other expense in the county.
Thanks, Mary Lou. Any other questions? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. The next one is a report brought to us by Rebecca Denard, our manager of climate change. She's here to talk about or give us an update on the climate change initiatives. So Rebecca, welcome. Oh, mover and seconder. Councillor Eccles, Councillor Pringle. Thank you very much. Rebecca.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, and thanks to everybody for having me again here today. You should have all received a copy of our climate change initiative snapshot document. So this is really an overview of all of the projects we've been working on over the past 12 months. We wanted to get it all into one place so it's available for your fellow councillors and for your staff to share with stakeholders and other members of the public to really see the impact that we're having collectively all together. So I'll just be giving you a quick overview of the projects in this report today. Most of them you will have heard about before, but happy to dive into any more details if you're interested at the end. So we start with going green and gray and our priority actions. You'll see I apologize, this is fairly small to look at on the screen, but you have it in paper copy. So these are the that we identified as priorities for going green and gray, and you'll reflected in the actions in the document. Or important to lead by example. So we have these are our corporate actions that we are doing at the county. Mostly some of the things I want to highlight are the net zero ready builds that we're doing for Rockwood Terrace, as well as a new paramedic base and a housing development in Dundalk. So we're starting to get that to be a well-oiled machine in terms of getting some of those energy conservation principles into new housing builds. We're also working on, I'm applying right now for funding to get chargers in some of the transport depots so we can start to electrify our fleet. And we're doing some work with energy audits and strategic energy management to address energy usage in our current county buildings. Some of those things coming out of the ECDM plan, which you heard about last time I was here. Moving on to some of the community actions, agriculture and nature-based solutions is one of our first bullets here. You may have noticed on your way in that our plantings on the county grounds are going well. There's some new fruit trees, apple trees and other fruit trees newly planted this year. And the rain garden is looking great there at the bottom of the hill. We're also doing the Experimental Acres program, engaging farmers to try new farming techniques for sustainability, and hope to continue that project into the future. waste and organics diversion. We are meeting with staff from across the municipalities in a community of practice to look for opportunities to collaborate on some waste strategies countywide. Likewise, with the transportation, we have applied for funding from the Charge On program through our rural recharge program to get a public charging network throughout the county. We are unfortunately still waiting on a decision on that funding, but assuming that all goes well, we will be implementing some more public charging infrastructure around the county. Buildings and development is another big one. You've heard a lot about our green development standards, so we continue to work on that project. We finished our first round of public consultation and are now drafting the standards, and we'll bring back a draft for more consultation, probably in the fall. One that you maybe have heard less about is the Community Efficiency Financing Program, which is working on a program that will help finance retrofits for homeowners in existing homes. So we have a feasibility and design project for that now, and then next steps would be to move forward with a capital project. But that will be that's the phase 2, and we will get into that later. We also have an adaptation plan in the works. We're working with the ORCA, which is the Ontario Resource Centre for Climate Adaptation. We're putting together a working group that will establish an adaptation plan. And we're also applying for some funding for FCM to support that work of making our adaptation plan. Outreach and engagement is a big part of what we do. We are working again with schools. We have the Learning for Sustainable Futures group on board for this next iteration of the Youth Climate Action Conference. Earlier in the year, we also worked with Mwakudong on a sharing circle related to climate initiatives. So that continues to be an ongoing thing, which we reach people through our website and our newsletters and social media. I'm going to skip over all of these lovely municipal updates. All of the staff in the member municipalities are also doing great work, which I will let you read about on your own. It's always a privilege to cooperate and collaborate with our member municipalities, and I think together we're doing some really great initiatives. And so everybody's doing something. So it's really great to see the variety of things that we're up to. Lots and lots of partners, as you see listed there. We were trying to put the logos in, we just couldn't fit them all. So we've got just the text. And once again, thank you to my wonderful team. Without this sort of group of 3 small but mighty team of people, these are the people who get all these things done. Particularly Megan Miles, who really led the creation of this report, and as well as several of the initiatives contained within it. So that was a fast and quick overview of everything we've been doing, and happy to dive into more details if you would like to do that right now.
Thank you, Rebecca. And you're right, a lot of work and a lot of neat things going on in terms of the climate. Randy, you want to add something?
I just want to thank Rebecca and Megan and Kieran, as well as all the work that's being done locally as highlighted in this document. Some of that's coming out as a result of the Municipal Climate Change Community Practice, where we meet with staff representatives from each of your local municipalities on a regular basis to try to advance some of these initiatives and actions. And I think it's through working together, again, we're able to accomplish some of these actions and initiatives. And so I just want to thank Rebecca and Kieran and Megan and for all their work in terms of working together with folks on the ground, as well as some other community partners to advance some of this work. So really proud of the team's efforts, and look forward to where this can go as well in the future.
Thanks, Randy. Absolutely. We want to congratulate you. Thank you. Any questions? Councillor DeBreen.
Thank you, Warden Milne. Good morning, County Council, and good morning, Rebecca. Thank you for the beautiful presentation as well. Did I hear at the beginning that these are being circulated to our municipalities to share the good news stories in our libraries, in various places, our tourism booth, perhaps in Southgate, where they enter upon Grey County? And if If they haven't already been mailed, are we able to take some back with us?
Yes, so they have not yet been mailed. We were going to reach out to our contacts through the CCCOP and see how many copies they wanted. And yes, but happy to provide a small stack if you want to take a few after this meeting. You can just swing by and I'll give you a few. And yes, the idea is that we didn't do this to sit on a shelf. So we're hoping to get it out to as many people as possible. Certainly planning to get at least a copy for every counselor in your municipality, so that they can see what everybody's been up to.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor McQueen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Warden, and morning county councilors, and thank you for the report. Just a couple of general comments on climate change. Listening to the business report this morning, and Ford Motor Company is saying they're losing $50,000 for every electric vehicle that they're producing today. So there's challenges that we do see, and also they're ramping up their 3/4 ton and 1 ton Ford trucks in the Oakville plant. So it's interesting how the consumer is still dictating what they want for vehicles. There was a program on CBC on Sunday morning talking about, and we probably know this from the province of Ontario and across the provinces, density or density in the sense of housing. It's happening across where people are buying single family homes, tearing them down and building fourplexes, eightplexes because of density and affordability. But it was interesting, they were talking about the carbon footprint. And to remove a house and build something else, there is a carbon footprint because either you're disposing of that house, and there's even houses in southern Vancouver that are only 7 years old that are being tore down, and because the density and the mandate that they were looking at from affordability and density and stuff. Something I'm noodling in my head, but if there's ways of repurposing homes from the carbon footprint, I think there should be some incentives from that aspect, whether it's through a development charge, something we could look at. I don't know. And also on the affordability side, it just seems a shame that this is going on because of other circumstances, but there's still that carbon footprint and affordability from young people, houses and stuff. I know it's just something that it was interesting. It was on, like I said, CBC Sunday morning. You probably could look it up, and it talks about that footprint of that transformation of homes in urban settings. But I just think that in that report, they are talking about some of these 7-year-old homes or other homes being moved to Indigenous communities and different things like that as well, to try to lessen that footprint or that carbon footprint. So, it's good that they're doing that. But I think across in our, even County of Grey and different things, there's probably circumstances, maybe not to the same degree, but if a home that still has a purpose, certainly if a home is 50 years old or 100 years old, certainly it doesn't have the qualities of fuel efficiency or heat, as a newer home. But there are a lot of homes out there that do. So, it's just something that maybe others could think about. But if there are opportunities to repurpose versus, taking it to the landfill, and they're also saying in that article, forget it was a high percentage of stuff that goes to our landfill is building material. Renovations. I mean, I'll give you one example. Just in Brewster's Lake, there was a home that was sold for 1.5 million. My wife got a text last year and it's gone. Totally gone. It was a quality home that could have been moved, it could have been repurposed, it could have been anything, but gone. It's built in something else. So we see that throughout, our municipalities and stuff like that. So it just, is there a way to create that incentive? And you talk about carbon footprint. There's a lot of carbon in building a house. If you look at the footprint that to create all that material and all that stuff, there is a little bit in the sense of wages and stuff that takes to move a house or repurpose that house or whatever. But anyway, I just, there's other aspects, I think, from a climate change perspective that I think we can be looking at from many aspects, not only from repurposing, but for affordability, for, young people creating something or whatever. However, anyway, it just food for thought, but it was an interesting article that was on CBC on Sunday morning talking about this. And you think 7-year-old homes are being torn down for density. So maybe look it up and I didn't catch the whole program, but I'm just gonna go back and see if I could find it on CBC, but you know, there's other aspects of how we can look at carbon, our carbon footprint and climate change and, and maybe there's a win-win-win from many different aspects. I mean, you look at some of your aggregate producers, recycling asphalt, recycling gravel, recycling, all that stuff. Anyway, I'll stop there, Mr. Warden, but I just think that it's something, we're talking about this is on our agenda. It's something that there's many aspects that we can do to, move it into a cleaner or a greener way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. And you're right, there are multitudes of ways to reduce our impact on the climate, but I think our start here, as Rebecca has outlined, we've got a pretty good start on things that we can do right here, right now. Rebecca.
Yeah, yes, thanks very much for that, Councillor McQueen. I think we're talking about the difference of operational carbon versus embodied carbon. So operational carbon is how much gas and electricity it burns while it's operating. Embodied carbon is how much it took to build it in the first place. And we're certainly considering both of those in our green development standards and looking to if there's anything we can do regarding, waste management or repurposing, if they are tearing something down, that it needs to be repurposed, or at least the waste needs to be diverted into a sensible paths, not just putting a perfectly good new house into landfill is not the ideal situation. And we are trying to look for mechanisms to address that. And we're also considering some of these through our waste management community of practice, looking for ways to collaborate on some of those diversion streams, be it shingles or wood or something that, perhaps we could all collaborate on having a unified county strategy on that instead of, everybody trying to figure it out by themselves.
Thank you, Rebecca. And now, Kim, do you want to add something?
Just quickly, there was a report that was shared out today amongst the CAO group from the Canadian Standards Association that talks about the circular built economy. And there's an awful lot of, I think, policy work that will lead to some program work about how to do exactly what you're referring to, Councillor McQueen, is how do we put things in place that will allow to separate those waste streams and allow for things to be reused where they can be, or recycled where they can be.
Just a couple of initiatives that sort of talked a bit about in that application that you're circulating was in Grey Highlands. We implemented reused containers at our landfills. They can be diverted. Speaks about that a little bit. And then we have the twice a year, the free giveaway at your curbside. I mean, technically you can put it out the road and say free, it'll go anyway. But, it's just something that trying to repurpose, reuse. I think 30 years ago, the 3 R's was like, reduce, recycle, reuse, right? So it's still there. So anyway, we all do a little, we can all do a lot, right?
We all have our part. Councillor Greg.
Thank you, Warden. I didn't have a question coming in, but you did make a comment that created a question. In the one paragraph, it says, in partnership with the Clean Air Partnership, the Community Energy Efficiency Financing Initiative. Did I hear you comment that we're working on an initiative that the Clean Air Partnerships thinks the county taxpayer should bankroll financing for residential retrofits? Because I would be extremely reluctant for us to pursue that path very far when external lenders, that's the rule that they're there to provide.
Yeah, so I'm happy to provide some clarification on that one. What we're working on the Clean Air Partnership right now is it's called Community Efficiency Financing, and it's a program of FCM. What we've committed to so far is a design and feasibility. So we are just looking at how it could work. If we were to pursue the next step, it would be the capital would primarily come from FCM, and then it would be passed along through us to a homeowner at an interest rate that was the same as we were paying. So it would be pretty much a flow through from FCM to here. This has not been decided, and I recognize that we haven't brought a report on this yet, because we're just at that feasibility phase. So once we have a complete feasibility study, that's when we'll be bringing it to council with for discussion about what, if we move forward with the sort of next phase of that initiative.
Thanks, Rebecca. Councillor Body.
Just quickly, I want to echo Rebecca and thank Councillor McQueen for his embedded advocacy there for the county-wide waste system.
Okay, I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that. Are there any other questions on the report? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Appreciate it. Okay, let's go back to, I think it was 6B on the consent agenda for the quarterly purchasing report. Councillor Greg, you'll move receiving that. Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Nielsen. Councillor Greg.
Just a couple quick questions. Thanks for the opportunity, Warden, to staff. There is a program in brackets here for a couple procurements, the agricultural equipment program. Just wondered if staff can elaborate further on that program for information purposes, as well as there was a pre-approval for a tandem, which is these that we know are anywhere from probably 15 to 20 months lead time, and council granted that. But my question then is, do we have any sort of like a dashboard type of reporting to track these pre-approvals? As we know, some of these larger purchases have to be done, you know, in 2023, 2024, and then we're budgeting for it in subsequent years. So, and the overall surplus or deficit position, our staff planning on providing like a dashboard, an update to Budget and Finance Committee throughout the year on that position?
I'm going to say the first part maybe to Pat. Do you want to take a run at the first part, and then maybe I'll go to Mary Lou on the second piece?
Yeah, just both these tenders, the tandem and the tractor and the chipper, were all purchased through Canoe. So Canoe is a kind of a vendor, or I guess a organization we work with that has contracts already set up with vendors. So they have items listed in there that are percentage off MSRP. It just makes the tendering easier for the purchasing department. And they do all the stuff in advance, like make sure they're meeting all trade treaties, things like that. So I guess that agriculture equipment program is a category of the Canoe, is what I understand from purchasing. So that's why those were under those numbers. And as far as the tandem, yes, we had taken a report looking for pre-approval in February, TRCW 04-24, and then tendered that in May and in April and awarded it in May. So now we're just, we awarded it and we're waiting, like you said, up to 20 months, maybe even, to get the delivery.
Thanks, Pat. Mary Lou, do you want to speak to the, I think it was the dashboard concept, please?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Currently, we don't have anything that we would call per se as a dashboard. We do track within each department what has to be budgeted for the subsequent years. So it doesn't create a deficit in the current year because we know what we're going to have to budget in the future year. If Budget and Finance Committee wants to see something as part of our reporting on future budget year commitments, we can certainly do that.
Thanks, Mary Lou. Councillor Greg, as you further?
Not too much further. I mean, this is particularly just a positive update, but if the opposite were true and we were significantly seeing a lot of overages here, it actually would carry forward and be a legitimate concern. It's not right now because it's a positive appendix, but that's just something for us, I think, to be able to track and consider. There's so much material. I mean, who can track all of it as counselors? So in some easy to process method to be able to be aware of where we are in the current year relative to our overall budget process. I get it for like future purchases that follows forward, but this is a review of purchases currently, and this review could some years have you in a significant deficit position. So I'm just wondering if that were true, as council, you'd want to be aware and be conscious of that, I think.
Mary Lou, did you want to add something?
So a Budget and Finance Committee will be receiving a financial update at the September meeting. And it shows you what our 2024 projected surplus and deficit is based on what we know when the report's published. For equipment purchases for paramedic services and transportation, what they have is a transfer to reserve every year. And so that's how their purchasers are funded. When staff is looking at the reserve adequacy, they're looking at what the future purchases are. They're asking the departments to update their cost based on what they're currently knowing, or they go out and, get some information from the companies they deal with. And then we look and see whether the transfer to reserve is adequate. Because otherwise, you're right, we're setting ourselves up for a problem in the future that you don't have enough money to pay for what you need to buy.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Any other questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. There are no closed meeting matters. Is there any other business? Councillor Body.
Just quickly, after 7A went past, quickly, I didn't respond, but I want to thank Kim for the report and council around the table for supporting it, because it is something that's important to On Sound. Thanks.
Oh, you're very welcome. Wait till you see what's coming next meeting. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Any notice of motion? Okay, I need one more motion to adjourn. Councillor DeBreen, Councillor Pringle. All those in favor?